Okay, well, first of all, welcome everyone to the Open Mic Poets and Storytellers event today as part of MACFEST 2021. Hopefully you can all hear me clearly. What we're going to do first of all is, before we listen to our range of speakers today, we're going to start off by introducing Darren Nixon, who's going to welcome us on behalf of Longsight Library. So Darren started working as a neighbourhood engagement delivery officer in central area libraries 3 years ago, after working in various libraries across the city for 14 years previously. He originally co-managed Gorton Library, moving across to look after Moss Side Powerhouse Library for just over a year, before coming to his current post, working with Fiona Fulton at Longsight Library. Although Darren lived in Longsight many years ago, when he first came to Manchester, he's enjoyed the opportunity to get to know the area and its communities in a whole different way during his time at Longsight. Darren says, "I love many parts of my role here, but as has always been the case, the chance to bring young people into our libraries and ignite a love of reading and learning in them is a central part of why I first joined libraries." So without further ado, to introduce us on behalf of Longsight Library, I'm going to hand over to Darren Nixon.
Oh, hello everybody, and welcome in a sense to Longsight Library. We're delighted to welcome MACFEST back to Longsight Library for its third year. MACFEST captures so many aspects of Manchester that Longsight Library is proud to be a part of. The festival's love of reading and literature is something which is obviously close to our hearts. More than this though, the ways in which MACFEST works to use literature to help bring communities together and promote wider understanding of each other is something that we try to do every day in libraries. The other venues MACFEST has worked with read like a bit of a who's who of the cultural spaces that we love around Greater Manchester, so we're pretty proud to be in such grand company. We're so glad you're able to join us today and look forward to the days when we can actually welcome events such as this back into our building. Speaking of our building, I'm currently in charge of Longsight Library for the day, so I won't be able to spend much of today's event with you. I just wanted to take this chance to let everybody know that Longsight Library is still open to the public in a reduced way, but we are still here. But obviously restrictions have changed the way that we operate at the moment. If you have any questions for us, please do get in touch and please come to see us if you have not already. Thank you very much.
It's great. Thank you, Darren. And thank you for giving up some time on your working day to come and speak to us today. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to introduce Kat Lumb, who's going to be hosting the individual speakers today. So Kat Lumb has been writing stories for over a decade, since she was diagnosed with 2 chronic conditions and was forced to rest more, meaning her imagination was often her only escape. Her first love is novels, and she has 8 manuscripts in various stages of completeness. I know that feeling. but also enjoys the ease of short stories for a quick fiction fix. Her stories have been published in Women's Weekly, Writing Magazine, and the Comma Press New Manchester Writers Collection. Her debut short story collection, The Memorial Tree, came out in the Kindle store in July 2018. Her fiction explores themes such as sentiment, perspective, and reflection, often with a surprising turn. In August 2020, she left her job as museum educator at Manchester Museum to follow her dream life as a writer, and now, as the Write Catalyst, she is a writing coach for aspiring authors who dream of writing a novel. She is keen to support writers develop their confidence and self-belief, and is an avid believer that we all have a novel inside of us waiting to be written. She is on the steering committee for her hometown literature festival, Hud Lit Fest, over the hill in Yorkshire, but is now settled on the wrong side of the Pennines in Staley Bridge, where she enjoys walking with her dog, Hugo the Destroyer. So I'd now like to introduce, and to finish, you can find her online at www.catlum.com, and at Twitter, her handle is @cat_lum. So I'd now like to hand over to Kat Lumb. And just first of all, I'd like to know what the wrong side of the Pennines is. I've never heard that expression before.
It means because I'm Yorkshire, I should not technically be on this side of the Lancashire, Cheshire area. My people are very upset with me for living on the wrong side of the hill. But I absolutely love Manchester. I've been here for almost 15 years now, so it's very much my home and I absolutely love it. working for Manchester Museum, it's been an absolute dream because I've got to know so many people across the cultural sector, including some of the people here today. And it's such an honour to be able to host this MACFEST event for writers of all stages in their journey and giving them an opportunity to share their voice with us, because I think it's a really important step on a writer's journey to be able to share that in a safe space. So thank you for Kaiser for letting me host this. I just want to give a special welcome to Zahid Stein, who's here with us today. He's going to tell us a little bit first about the Manchester City of Literature. But just to introduce Zahid, he's the author of The Curry Mile. He's been born and raised in Lancashire because his family moved from Blackburn to Manchester in 1990, where he's lived ever since. He's a former Northwest Poetry Slam champion and has performed at venues such as Manchester's Green Room, the Contact Theatre, and regularly features on BBC Radio. The Curry Mile is set in Manchester and tells the tale of a Pakistani family in the restaurant trade, and he bravely explores issues as diverse as diaspora, identity, gender politics, and intergenerational conflict. New Statesman magazine named The Curry Mile as one of their books of the year for 2006. And he works as a social entrepreneur, specialising in community-based research, regeneration and development. And in 2006, he set up the first BME Football League in Manchester. He's currently working to develop youth-based electronic gaming, a tour of diversity and eco-mosque, and he's available for readings, workshops and consultancy. So can we please welcome Zahid to say a few words about the City of Literature?
Thank you very much, Kat. I was listening to that and almost embarrassed. I'm thinking, oh, all my secrets are out. Thank you for inviting me, MACFEST, particularly to Sister Kesra. I'm going to be looking forward to hearing poetry and stories today. I'll tell you a little bit about Manchester City of Literature. Manchester City of Literature is a UNESCO designation. It's something that we received in 2017. And the thing is, from the very start, Manchester wanted to explore and celebrate its diversity. Manchester is a city where more than 200 languages. It's very much a centre for culture, whether it be music, football, or something else. Manchester is home to everyone. We've had our fair share of great events and also crises in Manchester. And what we find is, whether it's the good times or the bad times, we really have a great Mancunian spirit. And that is something, I think that's actually in the north, you know, people will say that in comparison to other parts of the country, let's say, the people here are quite warm, or they're quite friendly. Perhaps they might be a little bit blunt at times, but there's a genuine kind of a feeling of togetherness. Now, the City of Literature is here to celebrate the city stories. Now, that doesn't just mean that the usual suspects in terms of the great written works that have been produced by Mancunian writers. It's also about ordinary people. And that really is what makes Manchester great. And we have Darren here, who works at Longsight Library. Now, Longsight is a fantastically diverse place, perhaps the most diverse in Manchester. And it's that diversity and those stories of people coming from all over the world and settling here and making this their home and reinventing Manchester each time. So the Manchester of the 19th century was different to, you know, 20th century. And in 2021, Manchester is reinventing itself again. We're using Zoom like everybody else is, but I think there is something about festivals like MACFEST and what they can achieve or what they can do. And things like this put Manchester on the map, but also they tell everybody that irrespective of what might be happening outside in the world, whether it be Brexit or something else, that we are business as usual, that we are open to everybody, that you can come here and you can tell your stories and you can share your poetry, whichever language it's in. So one of the great things about Manchester right now is we have a poetry library, which is part of the Manchester Metropolitan University, and it's not just for the English language. So if you write Polish poetry or in Bahari, which from Kashmir, or whichever language that you speak, then there is a home for you here in Manchester. So let's hear some of the great stories and poetry today. Even though this event will finish at 3 o'clock, I believe, the poetries and that you're writing and the stories and the fiction, all of that will continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Zahid. And we're going to be treated a bit later on to a reading by Zahid. one of his potential, as he won the poetry slam, I think will be very well entertained. So just to welcome everyone from not just Manchester, as Zahid said, it's very much an international audience today. We've got people from Bangladesh, India, Germany, and across the UK. So thank you and welcome to all of our guests, international and national. As a host today, my job is to make you guys look good. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how it's going to work. So we're going to call on each reader. We've currently got a list of a few, but if you do want to read, if you haven't already contacted me and on the list, please do drop a message in the chat box just to say that you'd like to read with your name and the title of your piece, and I will add you to the list. What we're going to do is ask everyone to stay muted, and usually in an open mic scenario you would show your appreciation for the reader by applauding. That's very difficult in a Zoom when you're all muted, so I'm going to suggest that we use the British Sign Language for applause, which is the good old jazz hands. So when people are finished reading, if you can show your appreciation, that would be very much welcome. If we do have any technical issues, my hosting duties, for example, if I drop out, just in case, will be passed to another person. And if, for example, anything happens that completely crashes it, we'll probably come back, wait 5 minutes, and then come back using the same link. So I'm very, very pleased to announce our first reader today. He is called Amir. He's a poet and he has written a MACFEST poem. It's the 3rd year he's done this, and it talks about the festival and the development. So Amir, are you here? I've not had a chance to look. Excellent. Welcome, and please do, let's start.
People of Manchester, people of the United Kingdom, people of the world, a warm welcome to you all. Come and take a seat on the MACFEST train. MACFEST 2021 is here, the festival of arts and culture, the festival of bringing hearts closer, with a message at its heart: spread honey, not hate. On a virtual platform has now gone global. Our message is peace, our message is love, a gift from the city of Manchester to all of the cities in the world. The MACFEST train has picked up steam, passing through Bolton, Bury, Oldham, Stockport, Huddersfield, Rochdale, Liverpool and Glasgow. International destinations too. Azerbaijan, Morocco, Turkey, South Africa, France, Pakistan, Dubai and the Philippines. With over 70 events, let us celebrate our diversity. Let us celebrate each other's culture, and most important of all, let us spread honey, not hate. Okay, so that's the MACFEST poem. I've wrote something called an ode to Rumi. So I'm going to do that one now. Where the heart is broken, where the wound is raw, is where the light enters. Wise words of a seeker of the past, one who reached such dazzling heights, whose inspired words filled volumes. He had such love of the Lord, his name he remembered so much. He reached divine ecstasy. He was absorbed in divine love. He was declared a beloved. Such was his name, love, that his name was made eternal, both in the heavens and the earth. His name is Jalaluddin. His name is Rumi. From his story, a lesson you must learn. He was given knowledge. He was given fame. He was honored. He was respected. Yet from all of these, he turned away when he met the seeker from Tabriz. Like a shining star, like the glorious sun, came into his life Shams of Tabriz, who told him of the way. Without hesitation, without delay, he accepted. Turned his back on the world and became a seeker of the way. Just as suddenly as he appeared, the light of Tabriz just as suddenly disappeared, leaving Rumi broken, putting him in utter despair. Once the light is found, nothing else can replace it. The pangs of separation are so severe, salvation lies in only one way. The eyes must close and the heart must open. Such was his divine passion, such was his divine acceptance, that his name lives on to this day. Where the heart is broken, where the wound is raw, is where the light enters. Wise words of a seeker of the past, His name is Jalaluddin. His name is Rumi.
Oh wow, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much. I almost got lost in that one about Rumi, actually. Thank you so much as well for writing the poem about MACFEST. I think it's definitely something that has grown over the years, and as you say, it's reached out to communities, not just local but also international, and it's grown over that time. So thank you so much. So can we show our appreciation to Amir? And just want to know, Amir, so what inspired you with regards to writing the poem specifically about MACFEST? Where did you start from?
So MACFEST, I've been involved in MACFEST since the beginning in 2018. So at that time, there was like so many creative people around. You know, we were all working together quite intensely, and that's where the first MACFEST poem came from. I'm on number 3 now, so this is the third one.
Excellent. Yeah, you're gonna have to release a collection of them for long, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got a collection of poems, 100 poems, called Seekers of the Path, so I'm working on that. The Rumi one is part of that collection.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, you'll have to let us know when that comes out. I might be grabbing a copy myself. So thank you very much. If you want to go back on mute, that would be great. The next reader that we're going to have is called Jay. I've heard some of his work before, and I am a massive fan of his. He's a poet. He organises poetry evenings online, and he's going to read 2 poems for us. So are you here, Jay? My screen keeps moving around. Welcome to the MACFEST Open Mic, and yeah, please regale us with your wonderful words.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm going to go straight into the poetry. Actually, to be honest with you, I've got 3 poems to squeeze in for you today, and I have backgrounds too, so hopefully you'll enjoy those. The first poem I've got for you is called Circle of Hope, and it's actually about this ring which I wear. It's a ring which my grandma gave me many years ago, and it always reminds me of her and I suppose my purpose here. So I want to share this poem with you today, Circle of Hope. Silver and shiny, set with a stone. Wearing this ring, I'm never alone. My grandma once gifted this jewelry to me out of love, in the hope I would wear it with glee. And so I do, wear it with pride, reminded of how it reflects me inside, and how my dear grandma helped many folk. I follow her footsteps with lyrical hope. That was my nanny ma. She was a lovely lady. So the next poem I've got for you, rushing swiftly on, is one written for my mum. Very recently, actually, my final poem of 2020, written at 4 a.m. on New Year's Eve. And it goes like this: Amma, or Mum. You'd say the world would up and turn itself upon its head. You said that it was written that man would be misled. You said that in our lifetimes we would see the fall. And since you told me all of this, I have seen it all. The changes in the culture, the butchering of science, those clutching to their power whilst others rise defiant. A world in constant conflict, split as life divides. And there, within the detail, is where the devil hides and keeps himself invisible. His work is cloaked from view, relying on the agency of people he works through, claiming many victims, unknowing what they do, all seeking out success at the expense of being true. And so, as things have come to pass, as you said they would, I know that knowledge passed to me was knowledge that was good. Knowledge I am blessed with, knowledge that you shared. Mum, you taught me all of this, all because you cared. Hope you enjoyed that. Now, the final poem I've got for you today. This poem was written this year. I think it was on the 9th of January. It's called A Mother's Love. And as you can see from the image behind me, it's about Mother Earth. And this is the poem. The earth is whispering today. Be still, and you will hear her say, my ways are not respected, neglected, and in pain. I want to heal. Take heed and feel the words I have to say. The world, in calibration, must fix without a cure problems you've created from centuries before. She's waited several centuries for us to see our shame. For as we've grown to know her, she gave and gives away everything she has to us, so we may all sustain. This is Mother's nature, her caring, selfless way. Her suffering, yet still we feel real tears fall in her rain. It seems it's in our nature to fail to see our gain is at the cost of she who we need to live always. We fail to see our destinies, to change the future phase, to phase in newer thinking, new ways we must behave. Enslaved, our mother planet whispers what she craves. And though we do not always hear, we sense her every day. We need to ease her burden, to take away her pain. For without her, we would cease to be. So it's she that we must save. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that. That last one is such a powerful topic, and one that I think a lot of people, probably not here, but in the world, need to hear. And I do love that you link it up. The theme of today was very much family. I love that you write about the women in your lives who've inspired and cared for you, which I think is a beautiful sentiment, and I love this legacy for them. So thank you very much, Jay. We will give you a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
And thank you much for reading. So we're now going on to a writer friend of mine. Her name is Karen. She's a poet, playwright and novelist. She has a poetry collection called One Word at a Time, and she's hoping to read 3 poems today, one called The Other Woman, one called Future Voice, and one called Sometimes. So I'm going to pass it over to Karen.
Okay, thanks, Kat. Okay, this first poem is The Other Woman. Where is she now? There are things I need to tell her. She won't listen. She never did. But I'll tell her anyway, because she needs to know how strong she always was. She needs to know that each mistake she thinks she made carved and shaped and strengthened this woman who reaches through her skin and searches faded pictures. Her smile never believed in itself. Diaries and letters reflect the edge of other people's words. But I am so proud of her. Those times she walked away from anger and from pain, not knowing how it would end, where she would sleep. Those tears and questions led her to me. I was already there, a whisper in her blood. I just hadn't learned to sing. The second one is an environmental poem. It's called Future Voice, but it's a voice that I hope very much will never be heard. Looking back, the signs were there, all around us. But we did not understand that when the seasons forgot to change, people would forget to love. Exhausted by climbing money-fed dreams, we could not hear the last short breaths of small things. And although we knew the song of bees grew quieter with every year, we had no time to listen to dark-voiced, tear-laced, empty tales. I remember green, hedgerows alive with rustling creatures, and blue. The sky was blue, and sapphire sleeping salt-filled oceans carried wave-borne whale-voiced potent song. I remember blue. I remember colours your children will never see. All grey now, all shadow, all quiet. We sleep, for there is nothing else to do but endure the grating smoke-filled air. Lungs burned with breathing cannot sing. And anyway, there is no sky to sing of. Okay, something a bit more cheerful to finish up with. This is a poem about love called Sometimes. Love pulls tight sometimes, like a dress a size too small. The kind you wear for vanity, though you can't sit down or breathe and don't dare eat. Love rubs raw sometimes, like the itchy wool you suffer because you like the colour, and it covers the raised red rash that was once your skin. Love leaves spaces sometimes, like the ragged holes in a favourite scarf, threads pulled loose by restless fingers, unravelled by time. Love wears smooth sometimes, like a well-worn sweater. The kind you know is out of fashion and doesn't even fit anymore, but you can't throw it away because you know it so well. And because you remember the day you brought it home, the thrill of bringing it home, looking in a mirror, forgetting it was yours, forgetting how much it cost. And sometimes, just sometimes, love is the dress you know you look good in. The one that didn't look quite right on the hanger in the shop. And when someone suggested you try it on, you said, "Really? Me?" And then you pulled it to you, felt it gather around you, looked in the mirror and saw how beautiful you always were. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. I think those that first line of the love poem, that love pulls tight sometimes, that immediately hooked me right in. And I'm very familiar with that dress. It doesn't look right on the hanger, but that you absolutely love. So I can completely relate to that. Thank you so much for sharing your poetry. Absolutely wonderful, as always. And now we're going to move on to one of our contributors, actually from India. She's going to read a poem and a story. So this is Shamanas. If you would like to take the floor, please.
Hello. A very good evening to all the fellow poet and all the viewers who are listening us. I'm Dr. Shamanas from Allahabad, India. I'm author, editor, and translator, as well as poet of 19 books. And recently, I have published a short story collection, The Jasmine Girl and Others Too. So you can find me on Facebook and Google and my blog. And today I will be reciting one of my poem on related with a feminine issue in South Asia and female security, and also one of the issue pertaining to our country. So the title of my poem is Let Me Fly. Let me fly from this gender discrimination, disrupting my progress. Let me fly from this injustice inflicted upon me all the time. Let me fly from this male dominancy, creating problems wherever I go. Let me fly from this insecurity, creating havoc for me. Let me fly from this age-old custom and tradition, forming a chain around me. Let me fly from fake duties and responsibilities, not allowing to pursue the real happiness of mine. Let me fly from this sexual abuse and molestation that women are facing everywhere, which grabs my peace all the time. Let me fly from this domestic violence, which countless women are facing every day. Let me fly uh, in the far, far wider sky with courage, self-determination, talents, and skills of mine. Female issue is something which is a situation, which is an issue in South Asia. So this is uh, the cry of many ladies who are facing this issue every day. So uh, now I would like to read one of my short stories. The title is "The Teacher is a Synonym for Candle." A teacher is a candle which lights other by consuming itself. I have always believed in this quote as a student and later as a teacher. Recently, an incident happened which has made me completely surrender to the ideology of mutual love and respect. I happen to be a teacher who belongs to a Muslim family, and though I am very secular in my approach towards every aspect in life, but my name indicates my religion as it's a typical Muslim name, Shazia Khan. I believe in composite culture. As being an Indian, we are part of a multicultural society. My language is the best example of it. It is believed that our national language is Hindi, but in reality, we speak a synthesis of Hindi, Urdu, as well as which is known as Hindustani, but there are lots of English words in it. Actually, these two languages, Urdu and Hindi, have assimilated so much that they cannot be distinguished. This is a fine example of composite culture of India. A few months back, some personality of my country said that you can recognize a specific community by the clothes they wear. But I don't think so, since I have never experienced this throughout my life. On the contrary, I have always got love and respect wherever I have worked and gone. Being a college teacher, I had to attend an invigilation duty of a competition on Sunday. But there were chances that it might be cancelled because of the increasing number of coronavirus cases in India and especially in my city. But staying indoors since March till August due to COVID-19 situation, I was fed up and wanted to meet people, even if it was a hectic two meeting exam day. I reached campus 5 minutes early and felt excited to see the campus after so many. When I reached university, there was so much of chaos as many swarms of students were surrounding all the gates as the time was up. Students were creating so much of fuss because gatekeeper and guards were not allowing students. One of the guards even stopped me. But when they came to know my identity, they allowed. So I went to the medieval history department because my duty was assigned there. After completing all the formality in the office, I went to the class I was assigned as an investigator. There were 30 students in the class. Due to humidity, there was much suffocation in the classroom. The reason behind is that so one of the students came and asked me for water and then allowed him to go outside. And then I asked him to come Sunday. He came as fast as he could because the rules of competitive examination are very tough. When I distributed all the copies, then I instructed students to wash their hand with sanitizer. And I gave lots of instruction and other details to them. In my class, there were 30 students, and most of them were boys, and only 6 girls were there. So, being an invigilator, I had to sign all the copies. When I was signing the student copy, and I saw the name, they were all the students were belonging to Hindus community. And when the 3-hour examination passed, and there was a break, I again gave them instruction. And when I came back and started distributing and when I came back after 2 hours break, and as suddenly as I entered the class, all the students stood up and greeted me with a respect. So this is what means all the students were unknown to me, and it was my first encounter with them because I had just met them. But this respect and love which they have showered me make me believe in the uh, beauty of which is called as India, the India which I love most. This is why, as a nation, we have survived even partition, because the love and brotherhood between different communities will always remain in India, no matter what is the political situation, what is the situation in India. But love and respect you for different community will always. Thank you so much. Thank you. I had to wind up so.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I mean, that poem, Let Me Fly, those words are just going to be in my head now. I think I might have to write them down, and it will remind me of obviously the situations that you were putting forth, that the difficulties that women have and overcome. And then obviously your second piece, I wrote in the comments, but it's really interesting to see the situation with COVID and coronavirus coming through in our stories. And I'm really interested in how that will impact the way that we tell our stories in future. So it's really interesting to hear you insert it into it. And I think you're right with regards to, looking for love and respect in the current circumstances. That's just something we definitely need. So thank you so much for sharing. It was a pleasure. Bit of appreciation from to India. So our next speaker is she Zanib? Apologize if I've pronounced that wrong. Zanab, are you here?
Yes.
Yes, fantastic. How do you pronounce your name?
Zainab.
Zainab, okay, almost there. So Zainab is an amateur writer. She's presenting her first performance and going to read A Muslim Girl's Life. So I will hand over to you.
Yes. Hi, my name is Zainab, and I'm here to share my views on a Muslim woman and how the ideology is from the society's point of view. For a Muslim woman, the main idea is of an oppressed woman deprived of her intellectual and spiritual skills. There's the stereotype that Islam deprives women of their rights. For anyone who believes that, I would just like to say that Islam honors women, secures her rights, and raises her status. Allah commands, O believing men, live with them on footing of kindness and equality. I was always taught that men and women were created for different purposes, but no one is inferior or superior. Pre-Islam, women were just considered a man's property. Islam taught people the value of women. To constantly blame Islam for the injustices that have permitted through the ages is unfair. Knowledge and perception should play the role of the moderator in such contexts. It is not Islam that is responsible for the difficulties faced by girls and women. It is in fact our society and very sadly our own people too. Families who follow proper Islamic values would never stop their daughter's education, would never silence her, and most importantly, give her the respect she deserves. Muslim girls face pretty much the same issues any other girl faces: gender equality, being taken for granted, and constantly having to prove that they deserve a place in the field that they have chosen. Muslim girls' biggest obstacle is not Islam, but it is being treated differently. And we have to live in a constant fear of being attacked, maybe not physically, but verbally as well. When it comes to families, they expect their daughters to be quiet, reserved, and shy, which is why I think other people might think that they are weak. I don't understand why the hijab is so amusing to some people. Why the hijab is so amusing to some people. They often ask, do you shower with it? Do you never take it off? No, I do take it off. It is necessary, obviously. And I do not shower with it. In fact, once I was asked to take my hijab off because someone was being offended by it, which I did not really understand how someone else can be offended by me wearing a hijab. Well, to conclude, I would just like to say that I wear the hijab solely for myself. And Muslim women should not have to choose between their religious identity and their personal identity. They are in position to embrace both. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I mean, it was beautifully presented. I think your passion was very, very well evident there. I think it's an important topic that needs to be narrated. And I think you did wonderfully. Thank you so much for being here on such an important topic as well. Our next speaker is Vahini, is a part-time writer and freelancer and a full-time overthinker, as she describes herself. They're from India and they're reading something called I Am Playing. Would you like to unmute yourself and read here? Oh, she doesn't look like they're here. So I will, if you, hopefully it'll drop me a comment if we've missed you. But I'm going to actually pass over, I'm getting a little treat at the moment. I'm going to pass over to Zahid for a poem. If he would like to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a poem that looks to answer that question about faith. In fact, it's called Questions of Faith. So it's fairly short. Some say they've seen the face of God. Some say they've seen the face of God. Some say they've felt his presence. Some say he is a she and no God is as good as a goddess. Some say faith should not be an institution, nor ruled by bureaucrats nor regulation. They won't say what faith should be, except it should be done individually. Some say existence is a coincidence, that there's no evidence, not a scent of doubt, there's only nothingness. Tell me, is life random or is it designed? Does a deafening, numbing, dumbing faith deceive us to believe in the unseen? Tell me, are stars simply balls of gas or a sign from the divine? Is it lesser or greater to believe in a creator? Whichever strain of truth we follow, all faith and life is entirely hollow without the desire to stop and see the world's incredible intricacy.
Wow, thank you so much. That, yeah, I might have to find. Can we get that poem anywhere? Is it in any one of your collections?
I've never had a collection published, to be honest with you. I suppose I've kind of focused more on fiction, like yourself. I think I do have a collection. I mean, I can share with you. Before I turned 18, I had this target that I was going to write 2,000 poems.
Wow!
And
what
I did.
I've
written about 2,500 maybe. But most of them are rubbish, if I'll be honest.
You know, I think we all think that we write some rubbish, but I think when you share it with other people, the appreciation you get, because it's such a skill. I'm not a poetry writer, so everyone who's been reading poetry today, I have the utmost respect for you, because my poetry does read like a teenage girl who's just putting all her feelings down on the page.
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, well, I'll stick to long form fiction. Thank you so much for that, Zahid. I think it's a wonderful poem, and I think it's nice to hear those big thoughts, and the fact that we don't know the answers yet is quite an interesting concept. So we've gone through all of the pre-organized poets and readers so far. So if you do want to read, now having heard some other people read, please drop me a comment in the chat box, and we'll get you to read. I've been asked by Jay if he could read one of my poems, so I'm going to pass back to Jay to see whether for him to read a final poem, and then I have a little short story for you that, if you will indulge me, that I will share. But yes, please do, if you would like to read again, or you would like to read at all, please do drop a comment in the chat box and we'll come back to you after Jay. So I'll pass over to Jay for one more poem.
Lovely, thank you, Kat. Okay, you know, I was going to read my Black History Month poem, which is called Rise, which is actually inspired by Dr. Maya Angelou. And just hearing Zahid's poem, I just feel like reading another one, but I'm not going to read that. If there's extra time at the end, Kat, please ask me to come back for my poem, which reflects very much what Zahid was speaking about as well. But I'm going to read the Black History Month one called Rise, inspired by Dr. Maya Angelou. I was invited by Salford CCG to come and contribute to an event around inequalities in health and social care by BAME leaders within the community, and my contribution was a poem inspired, like I said, by Dr. Maya Angelou. And actually what I loved most about writing this poem was the process of falling in love all over again with Dr. Maya Angelou's work, which I can assure you, if you've got a book of hers, if you pick it up again, you will find something new in it for sure. So this is the poem, Rise. You may see a man of colour and wonder how I smile in a world of prejudice where people in denial add to the still I rise to unify and change the way it is. You may ask me how I do it, where I find the drive in the face of such adversity, why it is I try. I want to answer honestly, I just don't have the time. Too busy making changes. So it is, I rise. To all of those who see me through prejudicial eyes, and those who do not see at all beyond society's lies, does my happiness offend you? Of course, you will deny, yet still, you are the reason that I proceed to rise. Insult me with your coloured views, beat me with your words. My bludgeoned head will never bow, such hate is undeserved. Trample me on equal ground, shove me to the floor. Still I will rise above to rise that little more. For I, the quiet whisper, uttered on the boats, rise up now in harmony in these poetic notes. I, the rattle of the shackles that tethered us together, rise as a reminder we're separated never. I, the ravaged motherland, known as home of past, speaking to my people, saying, rise, my people, fast. I, the washed up refugee on the morning beach, plead, hear my spirit speak. Please rise up and defeat the prejudice and hatred that takes our destinies, replaces them with fates that were never meant to be. Elevate to elevate, rise up side by side. We're birds and butterflies that float. Rise, my people, rise. Thank you.
Wow, that was such a powerful reading. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, yeah, it's very motivational, as in the comments, and definitely appropriate themes for MACFEST internationally. And I think, yeah, that repetition of the word rise, I think that's going to have to become one of my words of the year. Rise. I love that idea of just, yeah, rising up, not just in the sense of to become equals, but also rising above all of the things that people say that might hurt us as well. So we just had a couple of people in the comments. So I'm going to pass back to Karen if she would like to read another poem. Always a treat to hear you again, Karen. So I'll pass over to you.
Okay. This is a poem I wrote a few years ago about a young lady that I met in London, very briefly. It's called Meeting at Euston. A girl with city-faded eyes excuses her request for £1. Says she's never been on the streets before. Tells me in a warm tobacco-coated voice she needs the money for a bus. as if I need a reason to be kind. The coin in my hand is bright, as she once was, has unquestioned value, as she once did, perhaps, when her eyes and soul still shone, before promises and practiced lies took her light as deposits on oxygen and pavement space. The metal that slides from my palm to hers courts the sun. Just for a second, fairy tale gold illumines the touch of our hands, and in that moment, more is past than money. Skin meets soul-remembered skin. Blood beats between us, each strengthening the other, in the time it would have taken to turn and cross the road. Thank you.
Oh, that was stunning, Karen. Thank you so much for adding that one. I think it's interesting because if the audience will indulge me, it actually leads in quite nicely to the topic of my own piece, which is a short story called Doorways. So if you will indulge me, I will add to all this wonderful creativity that we've been hearing. So this is my short story called Doorways. Doorways were dangerous. She knew that now. As much as they could provide shelter from the harsh wind and torrents of rain, they were also traps. Once you bedded down in their relative comfort, you had ultimately cornered yourself, leaving opportunity for all the nasty, forceful terror of men bigger than you to take advantage. Of course, this doorway was different, familiar, so very far away from the doorways she had learnt to avoid. The slope of the arch as she stepped up to the porch, still with its original tiles. It was too early for anyone to be up yet, but she knew in a couple of hours that this door would open and close many times in the course of a day. Most of the doors she had experienced over the past few years had slammed resolutely shut in her face. Not that she had tried knocking on many of them, at least not after the beginning. No, this door would never be slammed in her face. This was the door she had slammed on her way out all those years ago. There are balloons in the window, great big red helium ones, bobbing about in the shape of a 1 and an 8. Had it really been that long? She knew it had. Why else would she be here if it wasn't for the significance of the date? 2 days shy of 3 years ago, she had been a very different girl. Well, she was a woman now. That's an unavoidable fact. She'd been so selfish that day, wanting to hurt so many people, herself included. Now there is more love than hate in her, so much more. She recognised the lengths people had gone to protect her, to soothe the anger inside of her, yet it hadn't worked. Not their methods anyway. She discovered a different way to find the calm in the end. It has taken months and months of tears and self-pity, and then slowly she began to reflect more seriously about her life that was so buckled down to teenage tantrums. It was this doorway that did it. Any time she felt things spiralling out of control, she would return to it, usually from across the road. Sometimes not even in sight of it, at the corner of the end of the road. The very fact it was here was enough. She had watched carefully, knew that there was another daughter now. Not her sister exactly, one by proxy, she supposed. Younger than her, but now at the age where she might appreciate the support of an older sibling. Not wise, but experienced. At least experienced in the harsh realities of the world. She had no idea what it was like to live the cushy life of the teenagers she scrutinised as they strode around the shopping mall, either not seeing her or scowling at her with disdain. The cruelty of those looks from kids younger than her, who had no idea what she'd been through or why she'd done what she did. They all thought about it at one point, she was sure, but her bundle of damp camping gear and hat pulled low over scraggly hair, the dirt in her nails and dark smudges of street dust on her skin, that all reminded them not to bother. They couldn't have survived it, and they knew it. So whatever looks she might get from them, she always reminded herself that she was stronger than them in ways they might never understand. But was she strong enough to accept the help she knew she needed now? She tried to stand up straight, to give herself confidence, but her lower back ached from carrying her rucksack, the one now laid at her feet with the sleeping bag attached. The cloth was grubby, faded. and she was sure it must have that horrible, musty, sweaty odour that she had since stopped smelling. Life had been hard these past few years. She hadn't enjoyed it, but she'd always known she was free. The option to go anywhere, do whatever she wanted, had always been just in reach. It didn't work like that. She could acknowledge it now. Still, the possibility had always captured her heart and willed her on. Things were different now. She was tethered to the world of certainties, unable to make choices just for herself. It would be a disappointment, she knew, but the past few years had taught her responsibility, kindness, and a particular kind of realism that most would never comprehend. She examined the balloons through the window. They swayed slowly in the heat drifting up from the radiator. How she had missed radiators. All she desired right now was to put her back against the uncomfortable heat of one and let the warmth seep through her. She licked her lips, dry and cracked, weathered, they'd call it, and she took a deep breath. If she didn't do it today, she wouldn't do it at all. Leaning for a second against the cool stone of the porchway, she noticed a small stack of wrapped presents on the windowsill. Peering in, she could just about make out the name on the tags. A tear pushed its way from her eye and tracked down her cheek. Had they done this every year? It wasn't why she was back. It was the very last thing she expected. But it shocked her that those she'd left behind so cruelly could still care enough to buy phantom presents that they had no hope of gifting. Perhaps now she could give them that chance. She pushed her bulky frame away from the steady, smooth stone and pressed her lips together. With one hand over her bloated belly, she lifted the other and carefully knocked on the door. So that was my short story. It's just about 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to read? Just give me a yell. Oh,
I would like to read a poem.
Yeah, please do. Let us know what it's called and please read. Jimenez, do you want to read your poem? I think we might have lost her. She's frozen. Okay. Are you back?
Yeah.
Yes. Come. Just going to do a quick test. Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Would you like to read, Jimenez?
Yes. I want to read a poem. They say don't write in English. They say don't write in English. It is a foreign language, the language of our colonizer. Write in your native language. Consider English as an alien language. How can it be? When I read books in English since childhood, it taught me to differentiate between good and evil and to respect all the religion, nationality, and ethnicity. For me, it is a language of expression, connecting me to the global world and to different ethnicities beyond geographical boundaries. For me, it is a symbol of multiculturalism. So, why I should not write in English? Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. I think it's a really interesting point you make about different languages, especially when we're such an international community, especially when we've got so many in Manchester. It's a really interesting point, and I think you managed to sum it up in very few words, actually. Thank you very much. We've had a request for Zahid. Would you like to read a poem now? Is that correct?
Yes.
I will hand over to you.
Okay, thank you. The taller you become, the more critical they become. The shorter you are, the fiercer they glance. The more weight you gain, the more comments you hear. The older you become, the more questions they ask. The bolder you are, the more they talk. Intentionally or unintentionally, being body shamed truly hurts. What a strange world we live in, isn't it? The girls who change themselves are called fake and are objectified, whereas the girls who don't are pushed to do so. A tiny waist has been made so important that it doesn't matter if you have to starve yourself for it. The shape of your smile matters more than if your smile is real. And the eyes must be beautiful, but it doesn't matter how many tears those eyes have shed. Why is it so that a girl's eyes must be beautiful, but in every situation she must lower her gaze? Thank you.
Wow, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. I mean, I've just written in the comments that the shape of your smile is such a beautiful phrasing, and very, yeah. And it's interesting to me specifically because I've just had my braces off this week. So the shape of my smile did influence how I thought people saw me. So it's definitely something that we can relate to. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you so much for allowing me to.
No, it's fantastic. We have got one more contribution from Jay, who's going to read a poem that Zahid's poem reminded him of. And then if no one else would like to read, I'm going to pass over to Zahid for a final poem of the session. So Jay, would you like to unmute and go?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kat. This is a very special poem, so I'd ask everyone to go on mute. It's a really important one to me. I was invited by the Royal Exchange in 2019 to come and respond to the question, who has control over you and what would you say to them? Now, obviously, everyone responded very differently. And my response was this, and I called it, when pushed to give it a name, Abba, Abba. But I only gave it that name because that was the one name which in all the three Abrahamic faiths is shared as the Father. But actually, this poem I see as being much broader than just to be recognized by those people, those faiths. And actually, people of all sorts of faiths have come behind this poem and said, this is really what we believe in. So this is the poem, Abba. To you, I pledge allegiance, for you are not control. You are the love that's boundless, that rests within my soul. Others, in their innocence, have tried so very hard to turn me to a doubter, but I have kept your guard. I started seeking truth. In truth, I found you there, beckoning, awakening that elemental care that's placed in my design, inseparable from me. The love and light that you provide that truly sets me free. There is so much I want to say, so much I wish to share, but you are the all-knowing, and I know you're everywhere. You see all that I have to speak, and what you see is true. So let me take this time to ask a few requests of you. Our world is at unrest. Please help us find a peace. A way out of the darkness. Will the fighting ever cease? I know that you can help us to help us help ourselves. For you provide the answers for everyone who delves deep into their spirit. For in it is the root of hyperconnectivity of every soul to you. So help us reconnect and help us see the truth. Help us see your guiding light upon the world anew. Help us reconnect, affect the change that you endorse within our hearts and souls, and help us to a better course. See here, amongst the people, chaos is the scene. Confusion is so commonplace that we no longer dream. Please help us find a better way to be all that we are, to reach for dreams with self-esteem, to truly see how far we can make a difference. We can make a change. Please help us find the unity to truly change the game. Thank you very much for listening.
For some reason, that's made me really emotional. I could listen to you read all day, Jay. You've got such a lovely cadence and voice. and your poetry is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing such personal work with us. And yeah, it was a fascinating prompt that you were given there. And I think you did very well to answer it. But like I said, I got a little bit emotional. Thank you. It's exactly what poetry should do for me. So as no one else would like to share, we're going to pass to Zahid for a final poem of the day, and then we'll do a quick wrap up and we can continue with our Saturdays. So Zahid, would you like to end the readings, please?
Well, I was going to read a poem called The End, but hearing Jay's poem, I'm going to read another one now. So I just felt moved to read something else. This is a poem called 1492, or I should say in Spanish, 1492. That was the year in which Granada fell. It's a pivotal moment, a watershed moment, because before 1492, faiths lived in peace with one another, and when even Jews talk about that, they lived in the Muslim world in Spain, and there was something called convivencia. They lived with conviviality, and I think that we need to reassure ourselves and remind ourselves that there has been better moments in history. There definitely have been. So this is 1492. From east to west, no one can rest. The earth cycles between birth and death. People poised to choose. To win is to live, and to lose is to dissolve. If we don't resolve the differences that lead to an end worse than nuclear devastation and the ozone's obliteration. If all the colors that shape the contours of light, red to violet, were to select the way of violence, rain would fall forever and we would never see a rainbow smile across the sky. That's why if our future could speak to us, warn us, guide us, bring us back to us, all we'd hear is an endless sigh of choices lost, voices that have paid the cost, that whisper, the past is done, the people have gone, so sad when they could have been won. Children of the world unite beneath the star, the cross and crescent, and cease the descent into night and remember what was true before 1492.
Wow, what powerful words. And I think I was almost hypnotized there. I can completely understand why you won a poetry slam competition.
You too.
So thank you very much for everyone for reading, for sharing your work. I know that sometimes it can be quite intimidating sometimes to share work, especially in Zoom if you're not familiar with it. I would love to have done this in person because we would have had the wonderful Longsight Library as our venue. So can I say thank you to Darren as well for joining us. Yeah, thank you very much for participating in this MACFEST event. Don't forget that there are other events continuing, and please do sign up to them and watch them on Facebook Live. Kaisra, would you like to say anything about MACFEST, the upcoming events, or highlight anyone for us?
I think Sam going to thank at the end. He started it, he will finish.
Fantastic. So I will pass over to Sam. Thank you so much for indulging me with my own, and to all those who've contributed. It's been a fantastic event. Thank you so much.
I just want to say you've been a wonderful host. Thank you so much, Kat, for hosting it. Well done.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what I'm going to do is just quickly thank everyone. Then once I've finished giving the thanks, we can do a last round of jazz hands applause, and then just a word about some upcoming events. So first of all, I wanted to thank all the people who've read the poems today and their prose fiction. Like Kat said, I know it can be very unnerving to do it in this kind of environment. But what a lovely way to spend an afternoon. I think it was really enjoyable to hear them, and the range of topics as well. And especially in Kat's story that she read, the line that stood out for me was a very simple one, which I think was now how she had missed radiators when she's looking in through the window. And I think that these kind of events are reminding us of what we're missing, which is these sort of in-person events in the library. And I thought how much I miss live poetry readings. So it's really nice to just be reminded of what we have to look forward to when life returns to normal. And I think, like Kat said, it has that power of almost like hypnosis when you're listening to poetry. It does take you to another place without you even realizing it. So really, really appreciative of everyone who shared their work. I also wanted to thank Darren for introducing us from Longsight Library. I wanted to thank Zahid for his reading, and also for introducing us to the Manchester as the city of culture. Kat for her very diligent job introducing every speaker and making sure that everyone had a chance to read and to come back if they wanted to have another chance to read. And also, of course, a huge thanks to the background team who have made this event possible, and to Kaiser for helping to organise it. So could we give a big round of virtual applause, please? And real applause is something else we've got to look forward to as well. So just before we go, I just wanted to remind you that we have a youth event tomorrow, which will be young people celebrating their cultural heritage. Sorry, not tomorrow, Monday, because it's Saturday. I was thinking it's Sunday, but no, it's Monday. And then on Tuesday, we have another literary event, which is going to be poetry performances. And I have asked on behalf of MACFEST if you could promote those events on your social media. We would be very, very appreciative of that. I think there are some details of the event on the Zoom screen at the moment. So that is everything for today. I can see a round of applause. Oh, someone's coming in.
Yes, it's me. Just want to thank you. You've done a marvelous job starting us off and then finishing it off. And I just want to introduce you to everybody. Sam is a very special person for us. He's from the University of Manchester. He's the editor with the Mancunian. He's done a piece for us. And this was his opportunity to take part in MACFEST, to host it, to introduce it. So Sam, have you enjoyed it? You did a grand job. You were so natural, a real pro, and mashallah, really professional. Would everybody agree with that? We need a round of applause for him as well.
Thank you, Kaisa. I appreciate that. Okay, but before we get emotional, I'm going to bring it to a close. So I hope you all have a lovely weekend and stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you some of you at a future event.